I moved into Cedar Grove thinking I was finally going to get some peace. After years of surgeries and rehab from my spinal injury, I just wanted a quiet home where I could roll out onto my porch and breathe. I'm a veteran, spent 12 years in the Army before the accident, so I figured I'd earned at least that. The house was a modest single story, nothing fancy, just enough for me and my dog, Bailey. It had a little patch of lawn, a tall oak tree out front, and best of all, wide doors that could accommodate my chair. But what it didn't have was a ramp and stairs, and I don't get along anymore. So within the first few weeks of moving in, I hired a contractor, pulled the permits, and got a ramp installed, wooden, sturdy, well designed. It wasn't flashy, just functional, and honestly, it looked better than most of the porches on the block. I figured that was that. I wasn't trying to make a statement. I just needed to get in and out of my own house without risking a fall. Then came the first letter. I remember opening that envelope, thinking maybe it was a welcome packet or a local newsletter. Instead, it was a formal notice from someone named Brenda Kingsley, president of the Cedar Grove Property Association. Not HOA, mind you. They called themselves a Neighborhood Standards Board, but that letterhead might as well have said, "We own you." The message was polite on the surface, but the message was clear. Remove the ramp immediately. According to her, it violated the aesthetic covenant of the community. Aesthetic covenant? I nearly laughed. My ramp was barely noticeable unless you stood right in front of my porch with a measuring tape and a magnifying glass. I wrote back, thinking this had to be a misunderstanding. I explained I was a disabled veteran. I included my ADA exemption documentation, even offered to meet in person and show her the paperwork. A week later, I got another letter, this one not so friendly. She said, "Federal laws don't apply to private neighborhood agreements." She said the ramp was lowering property values and that I was being non-compliant. That word, non-compliant. It hit me wrong. Like I was some kind of problem child instead of a man just trying to live his life. Over the next few weeks, things got weird. My trash bins kept ending up in the middle of the road. I got anonymous complaints about loud music, even though I hadn't had a visitor since I moved in. A citation showed up saying my grass was uneven in color. I don't even water my lawn, just let nature do its thing, like half the other yards on my street. But it wasn't about grass. It was about control. I saw her once, Brenda standing across the street one afternoon, arms crossed, staring at my house like she owned the deed. She wore this tight blue windbreaker with the neighborhood logo on it and had this permanent frown etched into her face like smiling would crack her jaw. When I waved, she didn't wave back, just walked away like I wasn't worth the air between us. Then the fines started. First, it was $50 a day, then $100. Within 2 weeks, I had $400 in outstanding violation penalties. They were tacking on fees faster than I could read the notices. I called the number on the letterhead, no one answered. Left messages, no response. I emailed the address listed, bounced back. I started to realize something was off. So I did a little digging. Turns out, Cedar Grove's Neighborhood Standards Board wasn't officially registered as an HOA. They were a collection of residents, mostly self-appointed, who had filed nonprofit paperwork years ago, but never followed through. No formal elections. No clear charter, no legal authority, just a group of busybodies with too much time and too little empathy. I brought that to Brenda's attention in an email and copied a few neighbors I'd met. That's when the gloves came off. The next week, I got served actual legal papers. They were suing me personally for $180,000 in neighborhood depreciation and visual damage. I stared at the papers for a long time before I could even breathe. I didn't have that kind of money. I didn't have any money beyond my pension, my savings, and what the VA helped with. And they were coming after me like I was some millionaire out to wreck the subdivision. I sat there at the kitchen table for hours, Bailey curled up next to me, just trying to make sense of it. I felt rage, humiliation, and something deeper betrayal. I'd fought for this country, took a bullet for it, gave up the life I'd built for this chair, and now I was being attacked for just trying to enter my own damn house. But I wasn't about to let Brenda win. Not this time. I called up the Veterans Legal Defense Network and explained everything. A young attorney named Kyle Simmons got back to me the next morning. He told me I wasn't alone, and more importantly, I was right. He filed a countersuit citing ADA violations, harassment, and unlawful intimidation tactics by a non-governing body. Once the media caught wind of it, everything exploded. The local news ran a segment, "Veterans Sued for Wheelchair Ramp," and that's all it took. Suddenly, reporters were calling me. Neighbors were knocking on my door with casseroles and handwritten notes. And Brenda. She vanished from view. But the big twist came when a former member of her so-called board reached out. Her name was Ellie. She told me she had documents, emails, receipts, internal memos. Turns out, Brenda had been using neighborhood fees to pay for landscaping at her daughter's out-of-town vacation home. She'd hosted catered board meetings for herself and her friends, charging them to the neighborhood fund. There wasn't just overreach. There was fraud. We brought it all to court. That courtroom was packed the day Brenda showed up in her pearls and fake smile. But she wasn't fooling anyone. Kyle laid out every violation, every lie, every shady dollar trail like a masterclass in legal takedowns. Then I got to speak. I looked the judge straight in the eye and said, "Your Honor, I don't need charity. I just need the right to enter my house without fear." When it was all said and done, the judge ruled in our favor. Not only did he dismiss their case, but he awarded me $275,000 in damages. Brenda was removed from any leadership role in Cedar Grove, and the neighborhood was placed under audit. That ramp, the one she claimed was such an eyesore, it's still there. And now, it's lit up with solar lights and lined with blooming daisies. A neighbor did that for me the day after the ruling. I still live here. Bailey still snoozes on the porch, and I still roll up that ramp every morning with a mug of coffee in hand. But something changed. The neighborhood isn't quiet anymore. It's better. People talk now. They share stories. They check in on each other. And Brenda, last I heard, she sold her house and left without saying goodbye. I didn't start this fight, but I ended it. And I'll never let someone like her make another veteran, or any human being, feel like they don't belong in their own home ever again.